Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. A little extra pep in my step. Maryland Crab Cake Tour continues beginning on Fridays here in the fall. We're done with 31 crab cakes. I wish I would have had a crab cake with this guy down south of Annapolis. I wish we would have sat over a frosty beer at Costas or any of these number of a billion places we went to watch the Astros and the Orioles. But the good news is potentially I may have more time on my hands in October, John, to attend Orioles Astros baseball down in Houston. John McClain joins us now. He is, of course, the general of all things Houston football, some Tennessee football. I've known him since the Oilers, and he knew I was an Oiler fan before the Ravens were an embryo. He has now made some moves in his life professionally and covering things. I knew you weren't going to retire from the Houston Chronicle. Retire. I laughed at you the last time you were on here. You're never going to retire, John.
Nestor, I thought I was retiring from the Chronicle. I did retire from the Chronicle April 1st after 47 years. One reason was I wanted to collect my pension, and I stayed on my radio station, stayed on my other radio stations. I do 10 a week in 6 cities, including 5 on the Texans flagship. All I would have been doing in retirement's talking about sports anyway. So I stayed on there, and they asked me if I would write something for their website. And I said, yeah. That's grown into 3 things, sportsradio610.com. They announced me yesterday on Odyssey stations around the country as senior Texans columnist. I also do 3 podcasts on the Texans for them every week. But then last Friday, I was finally able to announce something I'm really pumped about. It's called gallerysports.com. Been working on it with Jim McIngvale, Mattress Mac, our nation's most renowned gambler and furniture salesman. He came to me in early May and wanted to talk about me coming to work for him. And I told him I didn't sell furniture. And he laughed and said, well, it's not furniture I got this idea about. So we've started this website, gallerysports.com. And as he says in a lot of his commercials, for gallery furniture, it's free, no paywall. And we hire guys like on a freelance basis, like Richard Justice, who you know real well, used to be at the Baltimore Sun.
One of my mentors, I must say, for all the old school guys, all my old journalism buddies, Justice was the best on the Orioles, then Kirchin. I mean, we had such a Rosenthal. I mean, if you love baseball, the Baltimore Sun, right?
Yep, and he retired from MLB.com about a year ago. And another guy used to work for the Chronicle columnist, John Lopez, who's on my radio station, Sports Radio 610. They were really good. And I called them up and said, would you guys like to write a column once a week? And they said, sure. Richard's got 2 things on there on gallerysports.com. John's got 1. They'll write 1 a week. I do 4 a week. And it's great to have the band back together. And Mattress Mac, if the Astros win the World Series, he will win $74 million. The biggest payout, Nestor, in our nation's history. He won $15 million when Kansas won the NCAA. And so, of course, we're pulling for him to win the 74. Maybe he'll pass a little of it to us, but it's been really fun in this week of writing. We've got people covering every sport in town. There's going to be a lot of gambling involved. And so I've kind of got a new lease on life at the age of 70.
Well, I mean, the gambling part of this was never a part of any of this, right? Now, you probably were sitting 10 feet away from me that day Mark Davis got the franchise out at the Biltmore in Scottsdale a number of years ago, right? And removed the franchise to Las Vegas, I would say. It certainly is going to change things. And in our state for this week, Maryland Lottery sponsored as well. It's the first week in our state you can experience Vegas and a number of casinos in the area. Bingo World's on now. There's a handful, half dozen places that this weekend you can go here in Maryland for the first ever kickoff and wager. We are in a different place than where you were at the Houston Chronicle and you and I were talking about whether Warren Moon was ever going to win a championship, right?
Estimates are that within 5 years, the NFL could make $100 billion from gambling around the world. And one of the reasons they're playing in Germany and they want to go to South Africa and Asia is not because of spreading the brand like they used to, and that's still important, but because of gambling. Those countries are way ahead of us when it comes to gambling, and the NFL wants to reap some of the benefits, and so they want to go worldwide. It's amazing what they anticipate having when it comes to gambling.
John McClain is here. He has reported for many, many, many years on the beat of the Houston Texans, and before they're trying to get the Texans to Houston, and before that, the Oilers and all of those things. And but the Astros are your passion. I literally would say this to you. You're 70, I'm 53. I'm doing something that literally is my dream with Baltimore Positive, and a lot of changes have been thrust upon me that I know you're going to read about and others are going to be reading about in the coming days out of Baltimore Positive. But I would think for you, and I'm just being honest, that the Astros wouldn't come to you and say, "Hey, John, why don't you be our color guy on Sundays or something?" Like and I know you threw out a pitch famously. I was pulling for you, bro, a couple months ago. I mean, you have literally been honored as a sports writer in all ways this side of Jack Murphy, and dare I say, and this is the most important sports writer ever, Oscar Madison.
That's the theme song when I come on one of my shows in Houston. They play the theme song from The Odd Couple. Yeah, I was very lucky. The Rockets honored me. Astros honored me. If you walk in the Texans press box, you see the John McClain Wall of Honor, and I'm the first person on there, and it's been incredible. I got notes from people like Peyton Manning, Jim Irsay, and Jerry Jones. I had a great football sent to me by Jim Irsay that was like they give players when they accomplish something incredible. And Roger Goodell left me a voicemail. And so at the time, I knew I was retiring from writing. I didn't know I was going to have these other opportunities. And I thought it was just going to be radio. But I've been blessed because we don't work. You know, I tell people all the time, talking and writing about sports isn't work. It's a privilege. And I still believe that no matter how much it changes. And you're talking about the Astros last night. Truthfully, Nestor, I've watched every Astro game this year. And I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't know they're going to have the best record in the American League, especially since they let Carlos Correa go year after George Springer. But last night they played the Rangers, and they brought up their top minor league pitcher we've all been eagerly anticipating seeing. Hunter Brown had 6 innings, no hits, 5 strikeouts, no runs, 3 hits, 1 walk, and he was dominating. So they're 6 deep when Justin Verlander comes back. There's no other pitching staff in baseball that has that kind of depth. Lance McCullers Jr. came back and he's 2-1 with a ERA in the low 2s. They don't hit very well except for 3 or 4 players, but they keep winning because of pitching. And when the Orioles beat them 2 out of 3, I told my wife a year ago when I drove a truck from Houston to our home south of Annapolis, and we were loading up our house. We're sitting out on our porch. I said, you know what? I said, I think in a couple of years, when I'm retired and we spend a lot of time up here, the Orioles are going to be good. And we love going to Camden Yards. We always have since we went the first time of the first season, and Richard Justice got his tickets. I said, they're going to be good about the time we're up here a lot. And I want to go see the Orioles. And the more I watch them and all those good young players they bring up, I believe that now more than ever. Don't know if I'll be retired next off season, but if I do make it up there, and I didn't this off season, I plan to go to Camden Yards because I love it.
Well, I plan on getting you a crab cake. John McClain is here. You can follow him, John McClain NFL. He's all over Twitter, all over the world, doing things with Odyssey, doing things now with Gallery Sports, correct? I'll make sure we get everything we need to get in here for you. I would say this. In 2015, I've known you such a long time, back to Stedman era. And in 2015, I came in when my wife was battling after the first time. I did 30 ballparks in 30 days. You went to lunch with us at Ninfa's and bought me and my cousin and her wife a lunch. And we went out and Pastorini did his thing. That was the first weekend that the Astros kind of got on the map. They beat up the Yankees pretty good in 15, and they started to feel that run that summer. Been 7 years now, John, right? I mean, and you've had a hell of a lot of fun. Cheating your way to World Series, you know, I know that'll rile y'all up. Even though you did, it's okay. I don't want to fight about it right now. It's kind of like Deflategate. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm just going to accuse me as guilty. But this 7 years, this has been a really amazing window for your city, for baseball, for your love of the team, for bringing other people back to have memories and the Orioles, it feels like, gosh, we're like, 8 weeks into this thing. It's way early. The bread's starting to, rise in the oven a little early. And the disappointment of getting swept on Labor Day around here this week. It really is something when baseball catches on because it's 162, because you can follow it every day, unlike football, which is all drama, blah, 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 and then they play, and there's a train wreck. Baseball's different than that, and it brings a different vibe. And I would say for 7 years now, despite cheating, whatever happened down there, it's fun, and it's fun when you're involved. And it's an embryo here. What you're talking about, that promise of, hey, in 24, 25, my wife and I are going to be up there. This is going to be a 90, 95 win team. There is part of that where there's hope, but then there's all that part of it where the kids are fighting. The mother, you're like, I don't know if you've read any of that, but I mean, it's an ish show that makes the Richardson thing in Carolina, or the Saints thing with the kid, like these awful ownership things. That's where the Orioles are right now. So it's a weird time to be writing or talking about them, but it sure is fun to think about. Maybe it's 7 years from now, we have a ring and there's some good things going on, and we have our Correa.
You can talk about the Astros cheating all you want. I agree. It's a tainted World Series in 2017. They went to 2 other World Series and came 1 game from going to a third. And it's amazing to me how many morons around the league will boo players that came up last year. And it's funny, Carlos Correa is playing at Yankee Stadium. They don't boo him at all. Where when he was the Astros, of course, they booed him everywhere. They only have 4 players left, and there's so many players around baseball who are on that team who get cheered like crazy by their hometown team. But I think it's fun to watch. Jose Altuve gets booed more than anybody. And the more they boo him, the better he does. When he was at Yankee Stadium this year, some writer came out, tried to get people to cheer for him, because the more they booed him, the more he beat them up. And of course, they're not going to cheer for him. But I think the Orioles not going to have to wait that long to be that kind of team. They got the best farm system in baseball. You can see all that young talent. And I can't wait in a couple of years when I think they're going to be really good and competing for the division title, when I'm spending a lot of time up there at our house and able to come to Camden Yards to watch them play. My wife and I are already talking about coming down there for the weekend. I got 3 million Marriott points, staying there at one of the Marriotts on the Renaissance with the view of the harbor, which is my favorite spot. I can't wait for that time to come. And I think the Orioles could lose the rest of their games, and there's still fans to be fired up for next season based on who they have that's young and who they have that's coming in the best system. That's what happens. There's a lot of teams that are perennially bad. They don't draft and develop well, and it helps that you got 2 Astros,
the Orioles were
former Astros at the top.
For 30 years, we were that team that didn't draft well, ever.
And now you're drafting well, you're developing them well, and you got a guy running the show who was here every step of the way with the Astros.
John McClain talking Astros, even though he's a football guy, and I'm going to get the columns. 2 things I have to hit on with you. Obviously, the season starting and where we are. Lamar Jackson, when you're living down below Annapolis and going to these baseball games, is Lamar going to have a trophy here or a uniform in Miami? I mean, I guess that's the great question. And you've seen all the great risings and fallings of the Houston Texans, whether it's David Carr or Matt Schaub or now Deshaun Watson, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of that. Nothing's forever, but the kid is like a Beatles sensation here. When Luke talks about practice this last month and people going to him, I mean, there's an Elvis factor to him. There's also the signability issues with Deshaun Watson and all the big boy stuff that I know you know so much about. Give me a little thought on Lamar and where you are on this and how the Ravens have played this and whether you really believe he's going to win a championship playing this style of football.
Well, people have to be idiots to think he's negotiating his own contract. That's what they were saying here about Laramie Tunsil. And he had 3 advisors he's paying by the hour. And so Jackson's not in there doing the negotiations. I think this, if he's like Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, and he doesn't have to have as much or more guaranteed money as Deshaun Watson got, and if indeed he believes that's an outlier and he can live with 175 or 200 million guaranteed, he'd be foolish not to do it, especially with his style of play. I think that they're capable of winning a championship, and I think it doesn't start with him. It starts with DeCosta and Harbaugh, who are good as any tandem in the NFL, and keeping some guys healthy and getting some guys healthy. I've never seen injuries. I've never seen a team in my 47 years covering the NFL, lose its top three running backs. I thought Harbaugh last year, considering the injuries, did one of his best coaching jobs. I thought Sean Payton did the best coaching job of his career with the Saints last year, what turned out to be his last year. The Ravens, I picked to win the division. Are they a threat to win a Super Bowl? They're always going to be a threat when they have Harbaugh, DeCosta, and Jackson. And I think, and I firmly believe that, Nestor, and because they've done it. And people admire their organization, whether it's free agency or the draft. And will he meet his deadline? Let's see, Lamar's deadline would be at 11:59 a.m. on Saturday night. Well, then what happens if 2 weeks later they go, oh, yeah, okay, we'll give you this? Is he going to say no? Of course he's not. And you don't see the Ravens have a lot of big contract issues like some teams. So I got to think they'll get it, because he can't go anywhere for 3 years. So he can't go to Miami even if he wants to, because he's playing out his contract. He'd be franchised 2 years. And then, of course, they wouldn't franchise him a third year. But I hope he stays right there, because, man, he's fun to watch. I can't imagine what it's like to get to watch him every game of the season.
What's you're looking forward to as we go into this season here? What are a couple teams, couple places that there's some teams like the Chargers that feel like outliers, and you're wondering, who's going to be the coming on. I think Matt Ryan in Indianapolis is interesting. I think there's some places that haven't been as interesting that can move into that conversation that aren't Buffalo or the Rams, right?
I watched the Texans beat the hell out of the Chargers in the last season, help keep them out of the playoffs. Davis Mills played great. Justin Herbert played great. I have the Chargers as one of my 4 new division champions. The Ravens are another one. And I have Justin Herbert winning MVP award. And I'm worried that Brandon Staley, who spends way too much time worried about analytics, because analytics don't tell you when it's 4th and 2 on your 18-yard line who you're going against, who's healthy, who's in the lineup, who your offensive linemen are, who's on the bench. And I think he stays too close to the vest with that. So I hope he doesn't hold them back, because I think they're very exciting. Nestor, I've never seen a division as good as the AFC West, top to bottom. There's some other good divisions like the AFC North. And I can't wait to see when Deshaun Watson comes off his suspension. He plays here against the Texans, and then he plays every other game outdoor. He's not been good in cold weather, and all those games are going to be in December and January. I don't think you're going to see the best of Watson till 2023, and I don't think he'll ever have stats here. I'm there like he did here, because here he played indoors most of the time. Plus, he played indoors in Indianapolis, played in good weather in Nashville and Jacksonville, and it's a whole lot different, as you know, playing in AFC North.
Ready to quit on Mike Tomlin and the Steelers just yet in their quarterback situation? Certainly, they've sort of been given up for dead in all this, right?
Yeah, I picked them last for the first time ever, I think. And I think it's only a matter of time before Kenny Pickett's starting. I don't care how well Trubisky did in preseason and the offseason. They drafted Kenny Pickett for a reason. And I'm sure Tomlin's kind of rejuvenated, coaching a rookie quarterback for a change, not having Big Ben there to bail him out. Big Ben should have retired a year ago, and they might be a year ahead. It's not a total rebuild, of course, but I'm pumped to see Pickett. He played a lot in college. I watched him. He was fascinating. And Trubisky, he's fine. He's on his 3rd team. I don't know why people are getting real fired up about him, but I'm fired up about Kenny Pickett. And the first time Trubisky throws an interception, they're going to hear Pickett, or Kenny from those Steeler fans.
Well, no doubt about it. It was the story. I went to like the 3rd day of camp in Latrobe, and if all the writers on the sidelines, should we report that as an interception? It's 7-on-7. He threw 300 passes. They're trying to figure this thing out real time. John McClain has great appreciation for that. He's covered the National Football League in many, many ways, in many capacities. You can follow him out on Twitter now and to keep up with all the things he's doing on radio and insights. All right, last insight for you, John. This is me being very, very, on my own here. I'm starting to write again. And I'm writing a column. I'm going to call it, ready for this? It's original. COLUMNNES, column Ness. Get it? Columnist. Yeah. So that's going to be my new column. And I'm reaching to everybody who is or was a columnist in traditional McClain, you got 18 inches. Don't give me 20 tonight, right? So, when we're talking about newspaper and columnists, what's a modern columnist to you? I mean, I know you do this at a very, very high level, but what makes a columnist worth reading in the modern era?
I've been writing 5 columns a week for the Houston Chronicle for a long time, plus 14 other things weekly. And then I also am writing 6 columns a week now. And the thing, Nestor, is you got to be opinionated. You have to be entertaining, informative. You have to be able to back up your opinion with facts. I like using strong stats to back up what you're trying to say. I wouldn't cheap shot people. If you make a mistake, own it. I screwed up. When I make a mistake, I tweet, I'm a moron or I'm an idiot. Then I apologize and move on. And because you're opinionated, you've already got the opinions. That's why talk show guys a lot of times make real good columnists. They call them blogs now. One thing I like about cyberspace, there are no space limitations.
Well, I plan to use that liberally here this week. John McClain is here. He is McClain on football and McClain on NFL, out on the Twitter space. Give everybody the lowdown again. All these shows, I got to get a billboard here. I got to get a script for you, man.
One of these days, you're going to get my Twitter right. It's McClain_on_NFL. And I can be read at gallerysports.com, sportsradio610.com. Nestor, thank you very much. Enjoy the Ravens season. I'm sure the fans are fired up about Lamar Jackson, John Harbaugh, and what they can do in the AFC North, the division I picked them to win.
All right. I want to underscore that I'm not going to forget the underscores the next time, and underscore that you and I should get together for a crab cake and a beverage next time you're up here in my town. John McClain, follow him. McClain _ and NFL and all those places he told you about.
When you do that crab cake tour, I send everything to my wife, Carol, because she comes up there a lot and she loves crab and crab cake.
I got more places on the Eastern Shore than out on the Western Shore. I'm talking about like Southern Maryland, but I got a few spots for you, so we'll definitely be in touch. John, enjoy, and I may reach back some point in October when there's a potential orange versus orange clash if the Orioles can pick themselves up and dust their young buttocks off here and get themselves righted this week. All right.
Anytime, Nestor. Thank you very much.
Football's been very, very good to John McClain, but he loves baseball as well. Formerly of the Houston Chronicle, now doing things all over the world on the interwebs. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.